Hello everyone and welcome to our Drawing with Precision in AutoCAD webcast. Our speaker today is Renu with ASCENT. Renu, I'll pass the floor over to you.
Thanks, Corinne. Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for today's webcast session. In this session today, I'll be updating you with various tools in AutoCAD 2017 that will help you to draw precisely and accurately. For those of you who have not attended any of my previous webcast sessions, let me introduce myself. As Corinne mentioned, I am Renu Muthu, and I am an instructional designer with ASCENT. My main work here is to write and update the courseware material, including the training guides for various Autodesk software products such as AutoCAD, AutoCAD Electrical, and AutoCAD Mechanical. And then I also create courseware material on the AutoCAD visualization software products that include the Autodesk 3ds Max, Autodesk Showcase, and VGrid Professional. I'll be explaining the various drawing aid tools with the help of the PowerPoint presentation that you can see on the screen, and then I will also demonstrate them in the AutoCAD 2017 software. So let's go ahead and get started. So today's topic that I'll be presenting is how to use various precision tools in AutoCAD. I'm taking the information from our AutoCAD Fundamentals course. I'll be presenting Chapter 4 of the AutoCAD LT 2017 Fundamentals Training Guide. The training guide is developed by ASCENT, which is the Autodesk authorized publisher. In AutoCAD, it is important to draw precisely and accurately. Many tools have been provided with the software that will let you draw with precision. I'll be talking about those tools today. These tools not only let you draw accurately and precisely as well, but also speed up the drawing process. So in this chapter, you learn how to select exact points on objects, how to draw lines at specific angles, how to find exact locations, and we'll also be using snap mode and grid. So the first drawing aid that I will be talking about is the running object snaps. So AutoCAD saves information in the form of geometrical descriptions. But what that means is that, for example, a line is saved as 2 endpoints. Similarly, in AutoCAD, a circle is saved by its center and radius. Object snaps enable you to take advantage of this geometrical precision by snapping to the exact points on objects while you are in a command. You need some object snaps to be on most of the time. These frequently used O snaps can be set up as running object snaps. Now, you can make object snap active by clicking on the object snap icon, which is like so, in the status bar. Now, it's most of the time you can have more than one object snaps active. So, for example, you can have an endpoint object snap along with midpoint object snap active. So when you hover your cursor close to that required object snap, for example, on a line, if you are closer to the endpoint, then the endpoint object snap will show up, the icon for the endpoint object snap, and it will also show you the tooltip saying that it's endpoint. Similarly, if you're closer to the midpoint of a line and you hover your cursor closer to that, the midpoint object snap will show up along with its tooltip. So when you click, whichever object snap was visible and the tooltip was visible, it will snap to that location. Now, the various object snaps can be selected from 2 locations. The first location is in the OSNAP object snap drop-down list, which can be found in the status bar, where the ones with the check mark show the active object snap. So, for example, here in your in the presentation slide here, the endpoint, midpoint, and the intersection object snaps are already current and active. You can also set those object snaps in the drafting settings dialog box. In the Object Snap tab, so this is the Object Snap tab in the drafting settings dialog box, and you can also select all your different object snaps here. This drafting settings dialog box is accessed through the list here by selecting Object Snap settings. You can add and remove object snaps in the middle of a working command. And Object Snaps setting is saved in a system, and it's not saved with a drawing. So for example, if you have already made those current and you close that particular drawing and then open another drawing, these object snaps will be still active. Now, the frequently used object snaps are also called as the primary object snaps. They are the endpoint, midpoint, intersection, center, quadrant, node, extension, and geometric center. There are many more object snaps, and as the name specifies for this object snap, for example, you have the endpoint object snap active. What it means is that when you hover your cursor closer to a line, to one of the endpoints, it will show you the endpoint object snap. Similarly, if midpoint is active, if you hover your cursor closer to the middle point of a line, you will snap to that location. Then center is the center point of a circle or an arc. So in that case, what you do is that you hover over the edge of a circle or an arc, and that it snaps to the center point of that circle or arc. And the quadrant positions are the 4 quadrants of a circle, and they're also referred to as the clock positions. So because when you hover your cursor closer to one of the quadrants, it will be usually it is actually at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock locations. All the 4 quadrants can be found there. And you can snap to any one of those by hovering closer to them. Intersection is a point which is obtained, which the object snap snaps to when two objects intersect. Now the extension object snap, it is instead of selecting a point, what it does is you can start a drawing from a point which is at a distance from another point. For example, in the picture here, we are starting to draw from an extension of this the endpoint object snap of this left wall. So a small red mark shows that object point, it's the extension of this object snap, and this red plus mark is also called as a glyph. Then the geometric object snap is that when this object snap is on, it finds the geometric center of a closed polyline shape. It doesn't necessarily have to be a rectangle, a square, or a proper shape. It can be any shape, and it will actually find the geometric center of that shape. So for example, the shape shown here, when I hover the cursor along the edge, it shows me this is the geometric center of that object. Now, frequently, as I said before, frequently used snaps are set as running object snaps. But there are many other object snaps which can also be used, but they are used less often. In that case, you don't have to set them as running object snaps, but you can invoke them and use them on the fly. You don't have to waste time on selecting them and then clearing them. The object snap overrides can be set as and when required. They are set as one-time overrides, and they remain active for the next selected point. You can quickly access those while you are in a command by right-clicking, and then you select the snap override, which displays a list of object snaps, and you can select them for one-time use only. So here, for example, we right-clicked and then snap override, and then we can select any of the object snap there. And it will be available for the next point, next selected point only, and then it's not as a running, it doesn't work again. You have to, if you want to use it again, you have to go back in and set it as an override again. Typically, the running object snaps that we use are the perpendicular, tangent, parallel, none, and so on. Now for the software demonstration, I'll go back, I'll go into the AutoCAD 2017 software and then complete a drawing such that it displays this kind of a drawing. So in my drawing originally, what I have done is I have already made those circles, which are the posts of a building, of a small house, which is located. The outer area of the house has also been made in the drawing. So what I will be doing is that snapping to the end point of the house and then going to the snapping to the center point of those posts and create this fence around the house. And then also using the midpoint of the house, we will create those, I will be creating the roof lines using the midpoint, and then also use the perpendicular object snap. We will be using another, I'll be using another midpoint here, and then this will be the extension object snap. This line we will be drawing as an extension of object snap. So let me get into the AutoCAD so as you can see, that's what I said. All the circular posts are given. I've already drawn them. And then the outer shape of the house is also drawn. So now, first of all, we'll set the different running object snaps. And that can be done through the list here. When I click on the snap, and it displays all the different object snaps. The one with the check mark, that is actually currently active. So we don't want the quadrant, but we want an endpoint because we'll be using the endpoint of the house. We also want the center because I'll be snapping to the center of the circles of the post to create the fence, and the midpoint will be used for the roof lines. As we go along, I'll be also selecting a few object snap overrides and show you how to use them as well. So once I have selected my object snaps, and then I have to switch on my subject snap. I have to toggle it on, and that can be done here. So this is on now. As you can see, if I hover my cursor, it says the snap cursor to 2D reference point is on. So now let's start drawing the fence. So I'll start the line command. And now as soon as I move close to this line, if I move closer to the midpoint, because my midpoint object snap is on, but I have to start drawing from the endpoint. So as soon as I move there, and the endpoint object snap is displayed, and I can just click. I don't necessarily have to go in and select that point precisely because it will automatically, it's going to do it for me. Similarly, when I hover my cursor closer to the circle, the center point of that circle is selected, is the snap point. So we can just click and it clicks there. So see how fast and quickly you can, and precisely you can select those points. You don't have to actually go in and look at the center point, find the center point. So this makes it very easy and very quickly and precisely and accurately you can draw using these kinds of drawing aids. Now, we completed drawing the fence. Now let's draw the roof using the midpoint. So I'll select the line command again, and then point it closer to the midpoint of this line. And now I have to draw it perpendicular to this line, and but perpendicular to this wall, side of the house wall here, to show the roof line. So, but there is nothing available. So what I can do is I can just right-click and say Snap Override, and then use the perpendicular object snap, because I have to draw it as perpendicular. As soon as I hit, the perpendicular object snap is used. So I can click there, and that line is drawn. Now, I have to draw another line from the midpoint of this one and perpendicular to this. But the midpoint, we already have it as a running object snap, so I can snap it there. But I don't have the perpendicular, because that I've used as a perpendicular override object snap. So for this case, I have to, again, set it as an override. So snap overrides, and I'll again select perpendicular, and then go here and click it. We have to actually draw another line from that endpoint to this endpoint. And now another line needs to be drawn from this endpoint to a point here, which is in line with this endpoint. So that can be done using the extension object snap, but we will be setting it as an override again for this purpose only. So again, let's start drawing. Draw a line. This is the endpoint, and then I go and I right-click and go Snap Overrides and choose the extension. And you choose this endpoint here, and then as I move along, no, it's not. So we have the endpoint, yes, and then I will start my line. I'll use this endpoint, and then Snap Override, and I will use the extension. No, not that way. I need to have the extension. Maybe I'll use the tracking, and then maybe I can set it from here, extension, and it's kind of not using it as I wanted to. And then see the drawing, go here and choose this, and then here you go, the extension. But I want the extension from this endpoint as well. So it just goes and snaps to that location. See, it chooses the right endpoint, and it chooses the bottom endpoint, and then it snaps to the intersection there, and that's it. So that's how we can draw different, we can snap accurately and precisely to different object snaps that we have set in our, from the list here. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. And the next drawing aid that I'll be using, I'll be discussing is the polar tracking at angles. So we use polar tracking to draw lines at specific increment angles. You can also draw horizontal and vertical lines, but we have ortho mode for that. The polar tracking can be toggled on/off again through the status bar using the polar tracking icon in the status bar. And also you can select a predefined angle from the drop-down list. So when you click on this icon in this arrow of the polar tracking in the status bar, it displays a list of all the standard angles which you can select. You can also set the increment angle while in a command. So how you can do that by using the drafting setting dialog box. The drafting setting dialog box again can be accessed by clicking on tracking settings, and it will open it up in the drafting settings in the polar tracking tab. So you can specify additional angles here. just here. You can specify additional angles. If the angle that you need is not given in the list, in the standard angles, you can choose a new angle here. And also, there are two types of polar angle measurement. So the first one is the absolute polar tracking, which is relative to the current X and Y axis. And then the second one is the relative to last segment, which is relative to the last segment that's drawn, or it is also relative to the line segment where you're snapping to. Let's go back into our drawing, into our AutoCAD 2017 software, and we will draw. Actually, I'll go back one more time to show you what we are going to draw. So we're going to draw these lines, and these are set at a 45. This line needs to be drawn at a 45-degree angle. So we'll set the polar tracking at 45-degree angle, and we also need a 35-degree angle so to draw this line here. So we need to set one to 45-degree angle and also to 35-degree angle. So let's go back to our AutoCAD 2017. And now I will be drawing using the polar tracking. So first of all, this should be on, which it is. It shows polar tracking is on. Restrict cursor to specified angles, it's on. And from the list, we can choose the 45-degree angle. So let's first draw the drawing, and then I will be showing you how to add another angle, which is a 35-degree angle, because that's not listed in the standard angles here. So let's start drawing a line. So as you can see, the line is restricted, so at 0 degree. And then as you move, different angles are visible, but it's not restricted to that angle at that point. As soon as I move it closer to 45, see, it restricts it to 45-degree angle right here. Similarly, it will restrict to 90-degree angle, and then 135 in the multiples of 45, and then at 180. So these are the angles that it will restrict itself to. So similarly, if I'm just move your cursor along this, and then you can just give a distance as, let's suppose 7.5, and then it will draw a line on that angle, or that 0-degree angle. Now we want to draw a line at a 45-degree angle. So just hold your cursor there in a 45-degree polar tracking angle, and then give your maybe a 4 units long. So there you go. And similarly, we can go up and draw a line at 90-degree angle, 2, and then at 0 degree again, maybe 2, and then we will have to draw, now we will try to draw a 35-degree angle. Now it's possible, but going and finding that 35-degree angle, it's really hard. So the actual use of the drawing aids, these object snaps or polar snap tracking, is that the ease and the fast and how to speed up your drawing capabilities. So if you have to actually go and find these, it doesn't make sense. So we have to set it, and while we are in the command, we can set a new angle. So I'll open this and then go to tracking settings. And here I can click on this additional angles and say new. So I want a 35-degree angle, which will be set again, so 35-degree, and say OK. So now if you open the list here, you will see another angle has been added, 35, 70, multiples of 35. So that's what we wanted. So let me start it from the end point here. So now, when you move your cursor, you will be restricted to first that's 0, which was already because you have set it at 45. But as you keep on moving, as soon as you move to closer, it will just snap to 35 degree polar tracking angle will be specified because we specified that. And then 45, which is the regular one, and then 90. So this makes it so easy. We'll just go here, and at 35, I can draw a 4, length of 4 units, and similarly go up and draw maybe another 2 units, and draw another 2 units this way. And then if I have to draw maybe again at 45 or 35, I can do that. So it restricts the motion of my cursor, the angles at the defined angles, at the set angles. So 45, 35, 0, 35, 45, and then 90, and so on and so forth. So let's get back to our PowerPoint presentation. So that was about polar tracking, the demonstration about polar tracking. Now we'll talk about the object snap tracking. So object snap tracking enables you to locate new points in relation to 1 or 2 existing points. So when you track with respect to a point, a new point is built, which is based on the coordinates of one point or the other 2 points, or the 2 points which you have hovered your cursor on. A cross is displayed at the new point that is created. It is always recommended to use object snap tracking along with object snaps because that will speed up your drawing work. As you can see here in the picture, what I have done here is the object snap has been set to midpoint and then also at the end point. And suppose we have to draw a circle at this position, which is at the midpoint and the end point of this. So we can easily use the object snap tracking. We can invoke or access the object, toggle it on in the status bar using the icon, object snap tracking icon. And then when we hover our cursor on the closer to the midpoint, because the object snap was selected or is active, and I draw and I move my cursor down here, a line will restrict me in this direction along the midpoint of this line. Then I will go along and hover my cursor closer to the end point, and once the end point is shown here, another dotted line will be restricting my cursor to that. And then at the intersection point, a cross will be available, and at that point, this is the point that was built, and then I can start drawing precisely from the midpoint and the end point of this extension. I can start drawing my circle or whatever I need to draw. Again, polar tracking can also be used with object snap tracking, but generally what I have found is that it interferes with object snap tracking. So I recommend not to use polar tracking, but it depends on personal preference. All these drawing aids are personal preference, and if you have gotten a system working where you can use both, you can actually go ahead and use both. Now the object snap, as I mentioned before, object snap tracking enables you to locate new points in relation to 1 or 2 existing points. Now, so for example, when you have to use only 1 point, you're using only 1 point to use the object snap tracking point. To create an object snap tracking point, what you do is you start the command and then you hover your cursor over the point from which you want to track your new point, and then move your cursor along with it, and then you can use that will track it along the object snap tracking point. So when you're using 2 points, as shown in this picture here, you hover the cursor over the first point from which you want to track. So for example, the end point right here, and then a small cross displays at this location. Here, a small cross will display. Then hover your cursor at the second point which is maybe the midpoint, or this is a perpendicular point or a midpoint, and move it towards the first point. The intersection of these two tracking lines will create a new point will be created from where you can start drawing. So now for the software demonstration, I'll demonstrate to create a top view. So originally the side view in my drawing, I have already created the side view, and the front view and the side view is already created. And I have also created those construction lines right here. And then using the object snap tracking, I will be showing how to create the top view of the drawing. So let's get into AutoCAD 2017 software, and then go here. So right here, you have as I mentioned before, you have the front view and the side view, and I have drawn the construction lines. Now I have to draw the front view using the object snap tracking. So object snap tracking, I have switched it, it's already on, and we'll be using, because I'll be using the endpoint and the midpoint to draw. So these should be on. So endpoint and midpoint are already on. I don't need the extension. So and it's on too. So object snap tracking is on, and as well as object snaps. The 3 different object snaps are also on or active. So once that everything is set, I can start by start my line command. And now I will hover my cursor close to this location. So it chooses the endpoint, and then I will as you can notice, a small green plus shows there. So that means the first tracking point has been selected, has been chosen, and then you can go and hover your cursor right at the end, at this endpoint, and then move. So it moves, and another plus point is shown there. So these are the 2 tracking points. Now as I move my cursor to the left, it will automatically show me the intersection point of those 2 points, and I can start drawing my, I can use it as my first point of the line. So here. Now the second point of the line should be in tracking position with the endpoint here, and then the endpoint here. So as soon as I move it up here, it shows me the intersection. I can click. Similarly, the third point for the top view should be tracking point here, and the tracking point which we have already selected. So it remembers that tracking point, and then it starts drawing there. Then another one should be with respect to this one, and then here, and then close. So this is, see how quickly I was able to draw this rectangle with reference to my front and the side views. Similarly, if I have to draw, suppose I have to draw a circle, which is starting from the center point of this circle, because the front view, this is the circle, this is a hole that is in the drawing. And I have to show it from the endpoint of the center line and at the endpoint of this middle line here, right here. So let me start the circle command, and then hover my cursor closer to the endpoint of the center line here, and hover my cursor closer to the endpoint on the center line here. And then when I move closer, I will get that point right here. And this is at the, as I know earlier from the software drawing that I had displayed, it is 8 units radius. So 8, and then enter. So the circle is drawn. So we can also draw this portion, which is some kind of a cut is in the front view. So it can be drawn, again, the line starting from this, and then this is the tracking point. So from here, then I have to draw it till here because that's where it's coming from. So here, and as I move closer, it'll automatically snap, and then it'll automatically snap to this endpoint right here. So see how quickly the top view from the front and the side views are drawn. Let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. So the next one that I'll be talking about is the drawing with snap and grid. So the AutoCAD Snap Mode and Grid Display are very useful in creating schematic drawings, in which the objects are not drawn using the real world sizes or distances, but are often lined up and evenly spaced. So Snap Mode, what it does is it restricts the movement of the crosshairs to specific increments, such as 1 unit or 0.5 units. So these increments are the spacing distances which is specified. When Snap Mode is toggled on, which you can do again in using the Snap Mode, which you can do using the Snap Mode icon in the status bar, and objects you draw are forced to use the snap spacing. So when you click on this in the status bar, you will be automatically, your cursor will go and snap to the snap points, which are at a distance, which are at a given specified increments. Now the grid display is a series of lines in the drawing window, which acts as a visual reference. In appearance, it's similar to an engineering, if you have seen the engineering graph paper, it is very similar to that. Again, the grid display, it can be toggled on and off using the grid display, grid mode icon in the status bar. Now, you can set the grid snap and grid spacing in a drawing by using from the drafting setting dialog box. So when you select the drafting setting dialog box, you can, in the snap and grid tab, you can specify the X spacing and the Y spacing for the snap mode, and you can also specify the X spacing and Y spacing for the grid mode right here. So now let's first go back. I'll go to the next page, and we have a software demonstration. So here what I'll do is I'll draw objects and then use snap and grid to place them precisely. So I'll go to the schematic drawing. And now, first of all, I'll set the snap display, the distance, the snap increment, and that can be done in the snap mode by clicking on this and then choosing snap settings. So in the drafting setting dialog box in the snap and grid tab, I can set them. So let's, I'm planning to set my snap X to 1 unit, and similarly, it will automatically take it because I'm taking equal X and Y spacing. And then also grid, it's usually good to have them, the grid spacing and the snap spacing to make it same. So I'll put it as 1 unit here, and then 1 unit for grid Y as well. So once I have set my grid and snap spacings, I'll go and say OK. And now to switch to snap to the snap points, I need to make the snap mode on. It is off right now. So by clicking on it, I have made it, I have toggled it on. Similarly, to shoot for the grid to display, I have to toggle it on. And here the engineering, it looks very close to the engineering graph paper that we use. And this is the grid spacing, grid mode right here. So let's start drawing. So this is very helpful when we have to draw those schematic drawings and where which is where the actual dimensions are not very necessary, but we have to show where to place certain objects. So let's start with drawing a rectangle, which is of 2 by 2 dimension. So as you can see, my cursor, it snaps to those points. These are the snap points it's snapping to. And so right here, and if I have to draw it 2 by 2, it'll go and snap to 2 by 2. So similarly, maybe another one, I can draw another rectangle right here of a 2 by 2 dimension, then another rectangle right here at 2 by 2 dimension. So maybe here I can draw another rectangle which has a 2 by 4 dimension or something like that, which shows a bigger rectangle. So let's draw 2 by 4 rectangle. So similarly, another one. See how quickly and precisely these rectangles are drawn. So you necessarily do not have to have the actual dimensions, but you can use the snap and grid to make those objects. So let's draw a circle here, which is of a radius 1. So right here, and then we can just connect using this line. So starting from here, I can draw a line which goes right here to the midpoint, or even if I don't have object snap on, it doesn't matter. So I can actually go and switch it off. So use only the snap mode. So draw another line here. I'll draw another line here to here, and then draw a line starting from this point to this point and this point, and then draw another line quickly. This is kind of a schematic that you're drawing, or for that matter, you can draw a kind of a flow chart, and this is very, very easy to draw using the snap and grid modes of the software. So let's go back into our presentation. So to summarize, so in today's demonstration, I taught you how to snap to specific points using running object snap. We were also able to learn about the override running object snaps to use a temporary object snap. We also drew lines at specific angles using polar tracking. We were able to locate new points relative to existing points using object snap tracking. In today's demonstration, I was able to show you how to restrict the crosshair movement to specific increments using snap mode, and also I was able to show you the display a grid in the drawing window. So now the AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT 2017 Fundamentals Training Guide is already available. Like other training guides, this training guide has an Autodesk authorized publisher branding. This training guide has a typical ASCENT layout where each chapter has the learning objectives to help you understand what you will be learning. At the end of each chapter, the chapter review questions. They are provided to quickly review and refresh what was learned in the preceding chapter. At the end of the training guide, an appendix is provided that help you locate the exam objectives in the AutoCAD 2017 Fundamentals Training Guide. These will help you to prepare for the AutoCAD certified exam. There is the instructor tools that is also available, which can be used along with the training guide. It provides you with the answers for the chapter review questions and also gives you the suggested timing that is required to complete each chapter in the training guide.
Renu, if I can
yes.
stop in just for a moment, the instructor tools, I believe for this title as well, the slides you used today, are they part of that?
Oh yes, it's The instructor tools.
Overheads that are included with those instructor tools.
Yes.
Titles. And for this one, I believe you get a set of overheads so that if you are an instructor teaching the class, you know, you don't have to create your own slides. And
right.
The slides you use today are part of that.
Yes, yes, they're exactly part of that. So yes, as Corinne pointed out, there with the instructor tools, you will be getting the overheads available. These are the PowerPoint presentations, and if an instructor is using trying to teach teaching this course, they can use those overhead slides, and they don't have to actually create them.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the AutoCAD lineup. So here is the list of available titles in the AutoCAD 2017 lineup that are offered by ASCENT. We have the AutoCAD 2017 update for AutoCAD 2015 and 2016 users that is available right here. We have the AutoCAD LT 2017 fundamentals, both in the mixed units and the metric units available. And this is where I had gotten today's chapter. I had used the chapter 4 of this training guide. We also carry the AutoCAD LT 2017 essentials and beyond the basics. In both mixed units and metric units as well. They are available. And then we have the AutoCAD Advanced and AutoCAD 3D Drawing and Modeling. Both of these these training guides are available in mixed units right now. And for the AutoCAD 3D Drawing and Modeling, the metric unit training guide will be available sometime next week in July. In the last week of July, and also AutoCAD Advanced Metric should be available for you in the month of August. With that, I am going to hand over to Corinne, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about those training guides.
I'm just going to let everyone know here, if you're not familiar with the formats that we have a variety of different formats for you to learn. So depending on what your preference is, we have a printed book. We call that a student guide. We have an ebook format. You can see it there on the iPad. We did already talk about the instructor tools in depth, and these instructor tools for this particular book are great in that they do have those overheads included, as well as the answers to the questions and things like that. We also have, for many of our books, and we will have it soon for this one, video enhanced ebooks, where we take videos from our partner CAD Learning and we incorporate those right into the ebook. So you can go through the book as you normally would, but you also get videos to supplement that as well to help your learning. The other thing we have is e-learning. So if you prefer to do all of your learning online, we have a special portal that we put all of our courseware into. It's a user-friendly online learning portal, and we sell our courses really in bundles. So you could buy an AutoCAD bundle for e-learning. And if we want to go then to our next slide here, this is just our contact information. So if you want to reach out to us, if you have any comments, questions about the webcast or about future webcasts you'd like to hear us talk about, or even titles you'd like to see from ASCENT, you can email us at feedback@ascented.com. All of our courseware in the different formats can be purchased at our ASCENT e-store. And we also have several titles available now on Amazon as well. I'm going to have to update this slide and include that. So we set the pricing the same for Amazon and our e-store. Amazon, though, sometimes has sales, so if you're looking for a deal, it's a good idea to check Amazon first and check them out there. And if you're a Prime member as well, I think on most of our items are applicable for Prime shipping, so free shipping. So again, depending on your location and what kind of book you're interested in, that could be something that's really good for you. And we have, we're on Twitter, we have a blog. Renu will be following up this webcast with a blog that we can share with everyone. So please do follow us there.